Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a beautiful day outside. I'm excited. I can see the sunshine right there on my desk somewhere, and that always puts me in a good mood. I almost came late. I'm sitting here. I'm all prepared, and I almost came late because I'm reading like the newest news out there for IT companies as it relates to DoD and what's going on. And so if I give you a quick tip for success, right now, what the government is trying to do with DoD in particular, what they're trying to do with IT consulting is to really rein in this consulting. And my tip for small businesses who are on the call today, don't get overly fixated on the news when you see something like DoD is cutting out IT consulting. They're talking a lot of times about the billion-dollar plus contracts that go to large firms. There's noise out there that talks about anything over 10 million has to be signed by somebody. Don't get distracted by that stuff. The government is still spending. We just got to figure out where they're spending and how to get that money from them by giving them what they're looking to buy. And so don't see any of this stuff in news as a downside, because the reality is the budget that's about to be passed, and this is now a guess, but it's a pretty educated guess, it's going to be bigger than the previous budget. It's just the one thing you can count on with our government is they continue to spend. And as a small business owner, right, I think that's not a bad thing. As a taxpayer, it's a whole nother thing. Okay, let's get into today's training. I got a lot to talk about. And by the way, I'm going to be talking about RFIs, right, and what to do before the RFIs. I've got another training coming up in 2 days. That's what to do after the RFI. And I've done lots of trainings on writing the RFI. If you want to dig further into this, I have done 50 or 100 videos in the last 3 years on responding to RFIs and tactics around that. So today, I'm going to give you a different play on that. If it's your first time with me, I tend to attack training with a whole new, I almost always use a whole new slide deck so that I'm looking at a particular topic like responding to an RFI from a different perspective. So that's what we're going to dive into today. And talking about before you respond to an RFI, because I get asked this question a lot, right? Is how can I have more success with the RFIs, right? I hear I'm supposed to respond to sources sought or RFIs, but I'm not having a lot of success. Can I do something about it to improve my chances for success? And I would say absolutely you can. What I want you to do, and what I said in the LinkedIn post when I announced this event or this training, was I want you to stop responding to RFIs. You see an RFI and you just send a response back. Instead, I want you to start using RFIs to engage with federal buyers. It's a mindset shift, right? You're changing how you look at it. Instead of seeing an RFI as just something you need to respond to in kind with paper, you're looking at that saying, I need to engage with the federal buyer, because one of these is a writing exercise, right? Just responding to an RFI, that's a writing exercise. The other thing is capture. When you really think about using an RFI to engage a federal buyer, that's capture. And capture is an important part of federal sales. There's 3 components to federal sales that we all should know, right? There's business development, and fundamentally it comes down to identifying an opportunity that fits for your company, capture, where you're shaping it to win, and then proposal, where you're sending that final response. And RFIs are kind of in that same phase, but they're solidly in the capture phase. And I don't want you to skip that capture phase. That's why we're going to be diving into what you can do before you send a response for an RFI to a federal agency. I'm going to break today's training into 3 sections. The first section I'm doing is what information I want you to gather. An RFI drops, what should you be doing in the initial stages? Really, what should you be putting into your pipeline? Second thing I'm going to cover down on is how to engage with federal buyers out there. The different stakeholders, the program office, contract office, et cetera. How do you engage with them before you send the response? And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is why everybody should be thinking about adding a subcontractor or a teammate to their RFI responses that you're sending. I want you to have a teammate to join you. And this is making the assumption you're responding with as a prime contractor and you're finding a teammate. If you're responding as a sub, that's kind of an easier way, because you're always looking for a prime contractor. That's what we're going to cover today. Hopefully that's what you want to see. If it is, put RFIs rock in the chat. Let me see some of that excitement. I bring half the excitement, you bring the other half. Okay, so if you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonough. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I'm co-founder of GovCon in a Box, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business government contractor after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. This is what I want for you. This is why I come back time after again to do these trainings. If you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, you're out there on Twitter, YouTube, etc., make sure you come in. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Connect with everybody who's in the chat, right? I'm looking at all these people who are writing RFI rocks, right? All those people who are writing RFI rocks, they're all open to connections or connecting with you. This is your GovCon community. Please feel free to network. I want to remind you about tomorrow's training. It's FPDS step-by-step. And here, I really want you to understand the fields that are in there and the power that comes from having access to the federal government's own data. You don't have to go through any other tools. Even us, GovCon in a Box, we have a tool that gives you access to the data. Tomorrow, I'm going to teach you how to go to the source, how to go to the federal government's own database. So FPDS step-by-step, there'll be a lot of good tips for people who are very experienced and also for those just getting started on FPDS. Last thing is make sure you subscribe to my newsletter, Government Contracting Success Newsletter. It is the largest government contracting newsletter out there for one reason. We come back consistently with good information that is helping drive your success in the government contracting federal market. Okay, let's get rocking and rolling. I want to start with what information you should be gathering before you submit an RFI. So we just level set here for 1 second. We see an RFI. It comes out on sam.gov. It comes out in GSA. It comes out in whatever contract vehicle portal you have. We see the RFI or the sources sought notice. This is the government saying, I want to engage industry. I want to hear what industry has to say about our requirements. I want to see if there are certain small business partners out there that can come support our needs. For example, whether we should set this aside to a woman-owned small business, right? And so there's certain information you need to be gathering. This information, if you're following a process, should be put into your sales pipeline. Your sales pipeline is where you take an opportunity that you're going to pursue and you put it in there, and it basically tracks all the data that you need to gather in order to write a great proposal, and it moves that opportunity through maturity and chances of winning as you move forward in the sales cycle. Watch all sorts of other training on that. But anyways, the reason I mentioned the pipeline is because that's where you're going to put the information you gather. I don't have these in any particular order, so don't feel like any one of them's worth more value than the other. You want all of this. And sometimes you're not going to get all of it. That's okay. But you need to pursue all of it. By the way, really quick, it's a signal to you that if you can't gather basic information about an opportunity, then you're not going to win that opportunity. If you can't even get the name of a person, then how are you ever going to have a meeting and learn more details, et cetera, right? So keep that in mind. It's very important to gather information. So the first one I have here is pain points and challenges. I want you to not only look at the document you're getting for the RFI and it says some basic things, but I also want you to tie this back to what an agency is doing. What pain points and challenges are they facing? An example that I just talked about is the Department of Defense. They're changing up how they procure IT services and consulting services, et cetera, right? And so you want to understand that pain point. Why are they doing it? Are they doing that just to be mean? Are they doing that to move at a speed? Are they doing that to bring services inside DoD to have employees do it? Whatever it is, I begin to learn more about that agency's challenges and pain points. Second thing is, and this is counter to the pain points, I want to gather the objectives for this opportunity. Why are you putting this requirement out, this RFI? What are you trying to achieve? Are there specific objectives you're stating inside the document? Are there objectives that you have in a broader sense for your agency that you're trying to achieve, aligned with strategic goals? When you find that information, it really makes your response stronger because your response isn't just to an RFI, it's to the challenges and objectives that you have found. The third one, I want you to go find current contract information. This is really important. If this is a recompete, meaning they awarded it before and they're recompeting it now, or they're on their path for that, you want to go find information. Certainly you can go to FPDS, check out tomorrow's training. You can go to FPDS and find that, right? But you can also sit there and dig around in all sorts of other places. Go to Google and search, call the government and search, whatever it is, gather information. You want to know if it's not a new opportunity and it's being recompeted, you want to know all the details from that previous acquisition. Number 4, you want to find people. So you want to find people. Actually, number 4 is about the office. Then 5 is people. This is a big one. Number 4, we sometimes go in and we think, oh, I got to get the program office, and I just assume other stuff. It is really important. You have the actual program office name and you have the actual contracting office. These 2 things are really important because they will guide where you will do research on challenges and pain points, objectives, goals, where you try to find people, right? If I say the opportunities in the Navy, well, that's not enough. If I say it's in NAVC, well, a little tighter, but that's not really enough. What if I say it's in the Naval Warfare Centers? Well, that still sounds good, right? I'm 3 levels down, but that's not really it. It's a Naval Surface Warfare Center, Crane, Indiana, who's got a multi-billion-dollar budget, right? And that is not enough. Inside of them, they have a program office. And that's really important for you to kind of dig down and make sure you understand who the program office is, because it helps you understand how you're going to respond. And going with that is the contract shop. The Army is a classic example for me. The program office is somewhere over here, and the contracting shop is over here. They're not together. Where if you go to the EPA, for example, they might be the exact same group of people. Or close to the same group of people. But the Army has something called the Army Contracting Command. And this is an entire organization handling the contracting. So that you want to do that same thing I just did with the Navy where I was coming down. The contracting shop, you want to do the same thing. Where is that being bought out of? Which contract, something support brigade, I think they call it. Like, you can keep coming down. Go watch training on that. I have a lot of training on that. So that's number 4, is finding the offices. And that enables you to know where to do your research. Number 5, you want to gather people. I say this all the time to business owners who have business developers and capture people on their team. If your folks can't put people's names in the pipeline aligned to an opportunity, they're not doing capture. They don't understand that if you don't have people on an opportunity, then you're not having meetings. And if you're not having meetings, guaranteed your competitor is. And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. That's life, right? But you need to get these points of contact. And I'll talk about them on the next slide. But you want to gather as many points of contact, not just one that is tied to the RFI that is right at the bottom saying, return this to Sally Mae and we'll follow up or something. It's like, great, that's the contracting officer and or the contract specialist. But there's so many more people to get. Number 6, I want you to figure out the estimated total contract value. Too often I see people responding to an opportunity, an RFI, or they're putting an opportunity in their pipeline, and the value, the total contract value, is empty. How can you really operate that way? Because think about this. What would you say in a proposal response or an RFI response about your approach on a $1 million opportunity? And what would you say if it was a $100 million value, right? Total contract value. You'd say different things. Your approach would be totally different. The number of FTEs, all this kind of stuff. And so having an estimated, I don't mean you're going to know the exact thing. If you're lucky, you can talk to the government and somehow learn their budget in there. Maybe you see some of that data in the overall budget, but you just have to figure it out. And there's training I've done that talk about this. And in fact, one of our sponsors, and I don't really have our sponsor slide today, but it's Kate, and maybe she'll say something about her company, but she does pricing and she might be able to give you guidance on this. And I'm going to have her come in and talk about that in one of my lives. Okay, number 7, a list of what you don't know. This is really important. Information you want to gather right when you start thinking about going after an RFI, you get it, you're going to go after it. What don't you know? Like, look in there, look at that document and go, well, I don't get it. How many users are here, right? How you're trying to figure out that total estimated cost. That goes into what is the scope of work? How big is this? The government sometimes look to us to say a ROM, a rough order of magnitude. How much do we think it might cost? Well, what don't I know? There's things I need to know. And the reason this is important is you want to create that list. This is the beginning of your capture journey on that opportunity where you're going to go in and start trying to get those answers to the things you know. But in your company, for what you sell, you should have a general list of the things I always need. An example is my last company. I sold Microsoft SharePoint services. I would want to know what version of SharePoint you're on. That's a really big deal. I would want to know how many users you have, how many SharePoint servers you have, things like that, how many custom applications. By understanding some of these things, I understand the needs so much more. And so you need to know for what you sell, what are the things I must know in order to really knock it out of the park every time? And then figuring out number 8, what don't I know? The way you do that is with a requirement gap analysis is one part of this. This is the technical scope. So number 8, I want you to do a requirement gap analysis and have a score for that, right? And for me, I teach requirement gap analysis. I've done tons of training. I now have built an automated system within GovCon in a Box. But basically, it's a score of 1 to 5. You prime contract if you could score a 4 or a 5. That's the rule, right? Is what I say and what most of us teach. If you're not a 4 or 5, then don't prime contract it. Just go sub. Well, you need to have that. You need to have an ability to look at that opportunity and quickly score yourself. How strong really are we? Not how strong do I feel like we are, but using specific criteria, how strong are we? Okay, so that's all the information. That's a lot of the information and tips about what you should grab and put into your pipeline. So the idea of gathering that is you're learning a lot more about the need, the requirement the government has, and the opportunity, et cetera. And so once you have that, capture is about reaching out and engaging with the customer, talking. This is just sales in general. You want to have discussions with the customer. You want to understand their problems, help them understand their problems, and help them discuss their problems. So when you finally offer a product or solution, that is the answer to what you have been talking about. And so I want to give you tips on how do you start getting engaged with a federal buyer and different stakeholders when you get an RFI. These are some tips I like to follow. So really quick, if you haven't heard me say this before, there's 3 types of people in sales. There's the focus of power. These are the people who sign the check. And in whatever level it is, it's who signs the check. That's why the contracting officer is the only focus of power. They're all buyers because they all team together to buy. But that's the focus of power. The focus of dissatisfaction is the program office. They're the ones who have the goals they're trying to achieve or the challenges they're trying to overcome, right? And so that's the program office is the focus of dissatisfaction. And then the last one at the bottom there is focus of receptivity. Small business professionals, they don't buy anything, they don't sign a check, but they're receptive. They're willing to help you learn about the agency, maybe make introductions, et cetera. And so those people are called focuses of receptivity, willing to help you on behalf of their agency to help their agency as well, but no power or dissatisfaction themselves. So here's a couple of tips on how you can reach out to the focus of power. These are ways I do it right when and these are clearly sales tactics, right? It's things that work for me that get me in the door to start differentiating myself from my competitors right at the beginning before I even send an RFI in. Let me back up 1 second. When a contracting office or an agency puts out an RFI or sources sought, they want responses. I'm not here to talk about exceptions, right? They want responses. And that's really important. They didn't put it out for the fun of it. They're looking to get industry feedback. When we respond and we participate in that exercise that they have, in that market research exercise, they're going to be thankful. And so the first thing I do is reach out to them and thank them for putting a sources sought or an RFI out. I love this. This looks to really align with our company. We're going to respond. I just want to let you know we're responding. It's a simple email, even when they say, don't reach out and ask us any questions. Oh, I'm not asking a question. I'm just saying thanks, right? Sales is about getting in the door, even when they don't want you in the door. Otherwise, your competitors are getting in the door. Your competitors are asking questions. Your competitors are shaping opportunities. So it's up to you to get comfortable with kind of pushing in a little bit. Professionally, very respectfully and nicely, friendly, right? But pushing, right? Persistent. So the first thing I do is I like to thank them. That's email number 1. Just, hey, I really appreciate it. We're going to take, and sometimes I could separate it. We're going to take a look at it, but I just want to thank you for putting this out. It looks like it aligns to us. And then I might spend a day or two, depending on how much time's left. I want to respond back and say, hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up. We are definitely going to respond. So if you're looking to track that, we're definitely going to respond. Even if they don't respond, it doesn't matter. You'll be one of the only ones doing that. And so now your company and your name are in their mind. The second bullet I have here for contracting officers is I like to point out mistakes in a document and or clarify stuff. I don't do this to be mean or whatever. First off, I do it to engage. It's as a marketing tactic. But I'll look in, for example, and say one page that says NAICS code 54111 and another page that says NAICS code 54112. That's an example of a mistake. You know, hey, Sally, I saw your RFI. I just want to point out, just you maybe you already saw this, right? I'm kind of subordinating myself here. Maybe you already saw this, but I just want to point out page 5, it says this, page 7, it says this. And there's always mistakes in these documents. So you don't want to be uppity or whatever bad word in there. You just want to say, I'm just clarifying which one is it, right? You said it's going to be contractor, the work is going to do in the contractor shop, and then you said it's going to be CONUS. Are we expected to be around locations or at our shop? It changes the thing, and that's clarifying information, right? You're looking in there to clarify. And then the third one that I have here is just reach out to them, right? Reach out to them, pick up the phone, call. I said send an email, but you could also call, leave a voicemail, and or if they answer, say, hey, thanks for putting it out. I just want to let you know we're responding. I had a quick question for you, or can I chat with you? Have you thought about setting this aside to woman-owned? If you can get them on the phone and ask them, would you do a direct award to an 8A, right? This is how you move forward. Really, the people who have success, like with direct awards or influencing an opportunity, they mostly just show up. They're not miraculous. They don't have this great talent from birth. They show up, they engage the buyer, and that's what I'm trying to put here is engage the buyer before their research. Okay, second group of people are the program office, right? Program office are the people with dissatisfaction, so you want to help them reveal that dissatisfaction, and you want to expand it into the areas where you're strong. So one of the first things I do is I just look for strategic documents and I read them. It's a great way to get introduced. If it's hard to find, I reach out and say, hey, I was trying to scour the web to see if you had a strategic document, or if you recently have done a briefing to industry about your program office, et cetera. And you can reach out and try to get that. But when you read it, it allows you to have more and more questions, or you can insert that language into your response. Second thing is same thing, request an intro call. What I like to do is avoid talking about the RFI at all. When I'm reaching in, I'm just trying to do an intro call. Now that I know I'm responding to this RFI and this is the program office, well, now I just want to get to know you better. I don't necessarily need to say the word RFI or RFP because it distracts you, right? But if I just come in and talk about your challenges and goals, if they ask me about the RFI, I'll expand on it. And then the last one is engage on LinkedIn. I did training last week. It could have been Monday. I don't know. But I did training recently here in May and June on how to engage federal buyers on LinkedIn. But the program office people are out there. All right, the last one, engaging. I always copy the small business professional when I'm sending my RFI responses. But what I would say is reach out to them just like the KO. Reach out and say, hey, I saw this RFI. We're going to respond to it. I'm really excited. Anything you can do to help us get it set aside to woman-owned small business, anything you can do to help me learn more. And then the last one I put there was BOSS, the business opportunity specialist. You 8A firms know this for sure, but reach out to them. Let them know, hey, I found this opportunity. I love it. I'm going after it. If it's in your core competency, that's where they help you try to push it to direct award. So engage these people beforehand. Okay, I got about 7 minutes left, and let me talk about teammates inside of your RFI response. I've known this forever. With my previous companies, I just knew the strength of teaming, right? I don't know where I really learned the lesson, but it could have been coming to me because I grew up in a house with 10 kids and 2 parents. We were teaming on everything, right? So it was normal for me. But I'll give you a more recent example with one of our customers who won a 27-person contract responding to an RFI. And the reason her response was so powerful, even though she hadn't worked in that agency, it was a Marine Corps, she reached out and teamed up with somebody who was in the Marine Corps who did semi-complementary services, but she brought the core competency strength and they brought the customer experience. So before you even got to a formal RFP where it's saying this past performance of this one, she was saying, this is our team. They have experience with you, very tight, and we've got experience across other agencies doing the work you need. I watched them do that as we were supporting them and drive it forward. And it just reinforced that lesson over and over again. When you team up with people, you make yourself a stronger team. And you want to do that earlier in the sales cycle. Why hold off until the RFP to go, now look how strong our team is? Why not just say right from the beginning, here's how strong our team is? And that's one of the main reasons you want to team up early, is to let people know right away. Some other reasons that are really important on why teaming is so important in the RFI is you are going to have weak areas. Booz Allen, GDIT, Northrop Grumman, they have weak areas, whatever that weakness is. Now, they have far less weak areas than I have, fine, but we all have weak areas. And so when you team up with somebody, you're shoring up that weak area, and now there's no weakness in our response. And I'm communicating that really early. The third bullet here is building and strengthening your relationships, what I call strategic relationships. These are teammates that have a mutual commitment or a commitment to mutual value or mutual growth, excuse me. We're both committed to growing. And so when I keep bringing my teammate in, I'm helping them grow and I'm growing. And you can do this as well, right? The last thing I have here is it's documenting a history of working together. As you get bigger and you go after bigger contracts, sometimes the contracts have language that says, I want you to have past performance with any teammate you propose. Do you understand what it's saying? You have to have worked together on other contracts in order to go after this one. Sometimes that language is in there, and the bigger the contract is, the more pressing it is to the government, the more they want that, right? So facility support, maybe not so much. IT services, yes, because they don't want you to learn how to get together if you haven't dated for a while, right? So you start documenting that history. I put here a myth that's really important, and I just heard this again last week from somebody. Sometimes people think subcontracting to others or teaming means I lose revenue. It absolutely does not. First off, if you're priming, you still have the revenue. Let's say it's a $10 million contract. You still have the revenue. Whether you pay W-2 employees or you pay 1099 subcontractors, that's just cost. So you have the revenue, you have the cost, and you just maintain your profit. There's no downside from money. The only thing that you lose out a little bit on with subcontractors is having all of those people work for you. But that's not necessarily a good thing. As you're growing, having some of that risk spread out is a really good thing. So keep in mind that when you're teaming, you're not losing anything, you're gaining. Here's what I want you to remember from today's training as I wrap up. First thing is make sure you perform a requirement gap analysis on any opportunity going after. You only want to pursue RFIs that are in your slam dunk or core competency areas. This means opportunities that look like they were written for you. The way you identify that is by doing a requirement gap analysis. Second thing is make sure you engage points of contact at the program office, contract shop, and the small business professionals. Engage with them before you ever send a response. So by the time your response shows up, they're like, oh, yeah, I've been talking with that person. I've been seeing emails back and forth. It doesn't have to be big engagements. Just you're on the radar and I'm not kind of thing, right? Third thing is respond with named teammates. Really try to evaluate your commitment to teaming up with people. If you're doing $1 million contract or more, how big of a deal is it to give them one person and you four or something? Things like that. Share, givers gain is that mentality around responding with teammates. Okay, don't forget tomorrow's training is FPDS, step by step. If your company's doing over $2 million and you're looking to sit there and accelerate your entrance into particular agencies you're trying to push in, we've got a BD Accelerator workshop that helps you get in the door. So just put workshop into the chat. It is a kind of a $2 million or more limit because there is a price tag, and I want to make sure that you're prepared to go at it. If you're under, then I always try to encourage you to subcontract. So keep that in mind. I'm not trying to tell you to go away. I bring this training to you day in and day out. Anyways, workshop in the chat if you're interested. For everybody else, remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is ending on time. I'm a minute early. I'm feeling good. I'm out of here. Have a great day.